On this week's program, we have local attorney Timothy Baldwin, also president and CEO of Badger Meter, Richard Mewson, and a newcomer, Christopher Carter. He is the president and CEO of CCI. So you need to sit back and relax, and let's focus on diversity right now.
Focus on Diversity with Troy Shaw.
And welcome to the program. Welcome to Focus on Diversity. I am your host, Troy Shaw. Let's go ahead and introduce my guests. We have Timothy Baldwin, local attorney here in Milwaukee. We also have Christopher Carter. He is the president and CEO of CCI. And again, Rich Mewson, president and CEO of Badger Meter. Gentlemen, thank you for being on the program. Let's get into our very first topic here. Living longer inside. A new governmental study has shown that state prison inmates, particularly blacks, are living longer on average than people on the outside. According to the latest figures, inmates in state prisons are dying at an average yearly rate of 250 per 100,000. By comparison, the overall population of people between the ages of 15 and 64 is dying at a rate of 308 a year. Rich, what do you think that means?
Well, I think everybody's going to immediately somehow point to violence and say, well, if you're in prison, maybe you're less likely to get shot in a drive-by shooting or something like that. I think it's a simpler answer. The number one killer of people in the United States is heart disease, obesity, things like that. And prisoners get fed better, okay? I think they're in better physical condition than the general population because they aren't able to sit on the couch and eat potato chips and Cheetos. Now I'm going to get a letter from the Cheetos company every night, and that's probably what's driving it. It's a heck of a way to get longevity by sitting in prison. I mean, that's not a good answer, but I think it's as simple as that.
See, I don't even know whether or not this is a fair comparison. Timothy, I mean, for the most part, we're trying to compare people who are living outside being able to have freedom to do all the bad things that they can do, and we're trying to compare that with the survival rates of outside and inside. Timothy, what do you think?
Well, there is some complexity to the lifestyle of the average African American life. Especially among that age group, and among, I don't know if this study was done with men versus women, but there are dynamics within free America that we have to acknowledge are different from what's going on in the prisons. And I think that the issue here is there's just a lot more social services that are available in the prison system than there are that are available to people that are outside of the prison system, including health care. Health care is something that they're going to.
We're taking care of a lot of our prisoners. I'm thinking that
they got television.
This comparison is somewhat racist. Do you think this is racist? This comparison is racist?
I think this study is a quack, to be honest. You look at, and I don't know the study because I haven't read it. We've got studies that say that we spend more on average for our prisoners than we do for individuals in regards to welfare. They get free health care, they get free food. I don't know of any prisoner that's sitting in prison right now that doesn't want to get his...
But Chris, studies serve a purpose. Why do you believe this type of comparison was made?
Look,
as a conspiracy to...
I'm just saying, studies are created for a purpose. Studies are created for a purpose.
But Troy, this study, this is a good study. I mean, I think this is a good result. What would be more upsetting is if this study came out and said that the death rate among whites, blacks, women, whoever in prison is much higher than outside the prison, because then we'd have to say, are we doing something wrong?
We've got to go to the next topic here. Look, Hugo Chavez tells the U.S. to go to hell. Literally. Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez recently told U.S. officials to go to hell, gringos, and called the Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice Missy on a radio and TV show last week, lashing out at Washington for what he called unacceptable meddling in the Venezuelan affairs. Chris, what do you think is going on here?
Well, you've got a gentleman who, based upon his legislature now, has created a dictator. And yes, the elections were fair. And I'll be nice because I know you do a business down there, so I'm going to take all this heat here. Hugo is a dictator, and he is going to say and do whatever he wants because he knows that we as the United States need his oil to a certain degree. People will make those comments. We as the United States need certain other things from his country, not his organization. The legislator down in his country is willing to give him that power, great. But he better be careful the first time he needs something from us, and it will happen. Either they need the world's police, the United States, or they need something from us in regards to some type of a UN aspect or whatever the case may be. And he starts making some more of these comments. Whoever our next president is.
This man wakes up and thinks he's Fidel Castro. Honestly, what do you think?
Well, I mean, he recently made a speech and called President Bush the devil.
The devil?
What better place for the devil to be than in hell? I mean, he's at home.
Well, Venezuela is not a bad place. Let's bear in mind Ronald Reagan called the Soviet Union the empire of evil. Harry S. Truman said to hell with them when he was asked about what he thought of his detractors. We called him Give Him Hell Harry, and everybody said what a wonderful guy he was. The fact that he made these comments, I mean, I don't like Hugo Chavez, all right? I would have preferred that the Venezuelans had elected somebody else, and I don't like the amount of power he's taken down there.
You think it's
On
a
the
fair
other
election?
hand, he was fairly elected.
Do you think it was a fair election?
It was a fair election, and from what I understand. And I don't know if they'll ever have another fair election since he just took all of these incredible powers. He's basically made himself a dictator. But for us to get upset over some guy who's calling us names, we've certainly done enough of our own name calling.
Well, he certainly has, followed through with some of his promises, and much of the oil product and the profits are going back to the people. And it appears that the people are in love with him and what he's doing in terms of the social services that he's bringing to Venezuela.
Well, imagine, Timothy, imagine you never ate, you haven't eaten in a long, long time, and then somebody comes to you with a piece of bread. Would you pledge your loyalty to him? You probably would. And that's in essence what Hugo Chavez has done over the course of the last...
But I would
they're
hope
certainly
that,
eating.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
They're eating. I mean, they're eating.
Well, yeah, but that's the problem, Rich. They're eating, but they're eating from the fingers of a dictator who really doesn't care about them. He just cares about their undying loyalty. And
Well, the facts doesn't prove out that he doesn't care about them because he's doing some significant social services to the general population, and it has to be recognized. What he's done is he's really given a lot of the oil profits back to the people, and that's why they love him. He is, sometimes they say negative press is just as good as good
one
press.
man should not have that much power. You got the last conversation.
Well, there's an interesting parallel here. The United States stands for democracy. We want people to have free elections. But what do we do when they elect somebody we don't like? What happened in Palestine? They elected a terrorist organization. Why? That terrorist organization was feeding the people, taking care of the people, and they were popular. Now, Venezuela has elected a dictator. How can we say we're in favor of free elections, but you must elect somebody we like? That's tough.
That's a very, very good point. I
issue.
mean, we probably don't like a lot of the individuals who are leading, but then again, they're
And a lot of people don't like our leaders.
They don't. And when we come back, we'll talk about more people that we don't like. Stay with Focus on Diversity. We'll be right back.